Saturday morning nerd show, and we're giving you a little theme music to help you with the subject that we're going to be talking about this morning, called bad films. So I figure a spoof by Weird Al Yankovic is kind of right up our alley. Anyway, I'm your host, Marcus Blake, with that nerd show, and joined with me is Mr. Brendan Smith.
Good morning, nerds.
And we got part of the gaming squad with us, our squad leader, K. Scott Cooper.
What's up, gang?
And Mr. Chad Womack.
Morning, gents.
So we apologize early for any technical difficulties. Apparently, Skynet is really affecting how we're doing live streams. Hopefully, everything is working, and you can see it on our website as well. So I don't know. Maybe Restream, the software we use to stream on multiple platforms, is really owned by Skynet. Who knows at this point? / Google. It could go either way.
Same thing.
Yeah. By the way, I mean, I do love how they kind of made fun of that in that Terminator movie and the alternate timeline, which is kind of a bad movie. The Genesis movie. Genesis. Would that be Google? So
Maybe.
Well, it certainly wasn't Sega, I'll tell you that.
Right.
At least they didn't call it Mega Drive.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to roll right along and get to our subject. But there's a few things that we do have to talk about beforehand. Yeah, I guess we're not live streaming on our website. Thank you, Skynet, and your technical difficulties. So anyway, we actually have two this week's Sign of the Apocalypse, which I'm going to get to here in a moment. Before we do that, we want to give a shout out to some friends of ours in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, other media personalities, and it is the Who Needs Sleep telethon going on this weekend. And if you don't know what this is, it's basically Dallas's own cancer telethon run by friends of our show, Devin Pike of Universal Remote, Mark Walters, a big fan, Void.com, Rob Irvin of the Clubhouse podcast, and other folks that we know. So basically, they do a telethon for 36 hours. Nobody goes to sleep to raise money for cancer. And this year, it's, like anything else, there's virtual things going on, but they live stream for 36 hours. It's a great thing to check out. They have lots of guests. Not just here in Dallas, but also across the country. And since we in this industry have interviewed various celebrities, throughout our careers, including a lot of, nerd icons because of what we cover, there's different people that pop in and out throughout this. So once we're done with our podcast and live streaming, I will embed their player on our website, and you can actually watch it from thatnerdshow.com. And hopefully you'll make some donations and help them raise some money. So with that announcement out of the way, this week's Sign of the Apocalypse. Two things going on. The first thing we want to touch on is there was an announcement this week by Warner Brothers, the studio, or Warner Media, or whatever they're calling themselves this week, that for 2021, they are going to be doing something that is unprecedented in our industry. They will release movies in theater, but also on the same day, you can watch them at HBO Max if you have an account. And the reason it's this week's Sign of the Apocalypse is, as much as they think it might be helping the film industry or trying to get their movies out, I hate to say it, but I think you're just kind of hurting movie theaters, and you're being really shitty to the people who have put out your movies, especially bad movies that were, shouldn't have ever been made. And we're going to get to that in a little bit.
I have a question on how that works. Are they doing it where it's just part of your streaming subscription, or do you have to pay $30 to rent it like they did with the movie a couple months ago?
No, they're doing it to where it's going to be released. I mean, I'm sure with some of the bigger
So just
movies,
part of your subscription.
Well, what it's saying is it's, part of your subscription if you have HBO Max. Now, I think on some of the bigger movies, which they probably changed their tune on, they'll try to charge you like $20.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I would think, because I'd be shocked if they let it go without charging extra for it.
But at the same time, I'm sorry. I consider this a bad move. I mean, I understand where we are with the pandemic. I understand people will be apprehensive going back to the movies. But if you're going to ask me to spend $20 to fucking rent it, to stream it,
I'm still going to go to the theater. Because I don't want to watch. I'm sorry. I've been waiting for a Mortal Kombat reboot for 25 years.
Yes.
I'm not going to watch it at home. I'm going to the theater to watch that. Like, I don't care. I mean, it's one thing, like, for some of their lesser titles that I don't care about, if it was just part of the subscription, yeah, all right, maybe I might throw it on. But for a movie like that, like I actually want to see, or this Suicide Squad which actually looks competent, I want to see that in the theater. Like, I'm not going to pay $20. I mean, yeah, I got a nice couch now where I can recline and I got a halfway decent TV, but it's not like, seeing it in front of a 60-foot screen with a recliner, food delivery, beer delivery. And, I'm still going to either the Cut at Cinemark, or if Alamo ever reopens up here, I'm going back there. But, but I will say this, I don't really care that AMC is crying about it. The fact that they're called American, Movies and Cinema is absolutely laughable because they're a Chinese company. So I really don't give a shit that they're crying about it. I will continue to support Cinemark and Alamo Drafthouse when they reopen, but definitely Cinemark because they're both Texas businesses. So
yeah, and Cinemark we have a great relationship with. They've been
very good to us over the years.
Yeah, so I mean, absolutely, that's where we go and do our stuff. But I'm sorry. I get where we're at, and I get how this has hurt the movie industry. But you got too many big films that don't need to be watched right when they come out at home. One of them being Dune. I mean, the new Dune that we have waited almost 40 years to get.
Yeah, that's
amazing.
And that screams for a cinematic experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sucks that we're going to have to wait a whole nother year to even see it anyway, but I'm sorry. No, all you're doing is you're hurting you're hurting movie theater chains that help push your movies out by saying, we're going to have this alternative. If you want to release it like a week or two later for people to buy, I understand that. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Give the theaters at least, a month.
Yeah. I mean, I guarantee you what you're going to find with the whole Wonder Woman 1984 debacle, and I'm calling it a debacle because you're releasing it in theaters in European countries anyway. Okay, they're going to the theater, and I understand that you're doing that because they're not the U.S. and they've gotten the virus under control, and they've done what's necessary. So I understand that you want to release this on Christmas Day, but we're still kind of in the dark of people go to the theater on Christmas Day. They go to the theater because they don't want to have to spend literally all day with their family. So
or their families on another side of the country.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Or their families on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes taking a break to a movie theater on a holiday, especially to see a big movie, and maybe Wonder Woman 1984 won't be as big as the first one, but it's still a superhero movie. It's still got a good cast, and it warrants a cinematic experience. Okay, so
I mean, but to me, this is just a really big asinine move because, like, places like Alamo or the bigger, cinematic places and stuff like that, like, they can still, kind of resist this kind of stuff because of, the overall capital they already have. But you're struggling to stay open, small mom and pop, or like, the historical movie theater in town that's trying to stay open because it's been there for 45 fucking million years.
Right.
This is essentially the death stroke for them. I mean, you're just shitting down the back of people, and it's not right. There's so many ways that this could be done, and I'm sorry this may be rude to fucking say, but I'm really fucking sorry that the movie industry is taking a hit. But it's not like those motherfuckers don't make enough money as it is. So what the fuck are they bitching about?
Well, and that's I get movies, some chains that are like AMC that's owned by China, which, by the way, I always found it. I agree with the irony with Brendan that you call this an American movie chain when it's owned by China.
I mean, it started off as an American movie company. China bought it later, but I mean, I just think it's
Well, I
ridiculous.
know.
They kept
What
it
I'm
in.
saying is that's the equivalent of that shitty little right-wing newspaper, the Epoch Times, claiming and it's an American newspaper when the ownership are Chinese Christian conservatives. So it's like, anyway. Movie industries, no matter, the ups and downs of how we do things, movies are meant to be seen on the big screen. Okay. Maybe not all. I mean, there are great movies that are built for like Netflix original movies or Hulu. I mean, I watched one on Hulu this week, which we'll be reviewing, called Run. I don't know if I would have gone to the theater to see that. It was great for that streaming services, but huge movies, blockbuster movies and everything. And even if a Mission Impossible movie is literally all the same thing every time, or a Fast and Furious movie, the action scenes in themselves are kind of meant to be seen on a big screen or in an IMAX theater. Whether you're paying full price or a matinee. I mean, think about it this way, and I want to throw it out. Since it is the 45th anniversary of Jaws, the one that really started the summer blockbuster. Okay, what if that movie got released today, during all of this mess, and you said, no, that'll be fine if people can just rent it home. No, that is one of those movies that is meant to be seen on the big screen with an audience, scared and stuff. And even if a Star Wars movie is not up to par, and we can all complain about the Disney trilogy, there's plenty to complain about, it's still an experience that is meant to be in a theater. Okay.
I mean, I could even argue the fact that I could understand if they did something different where, like, if we still had places like fucking Blockbuster or the old mom and pop, rental places, which I am actually super bitter about this because my grandfather used to own one of those when I was a kid. And I really fucking hate how streaming services murdered that entire industry. But, I would understand if we still had those rental things and they were like, hey, to support the rental companies and to support the movie theaters, because right now you guys are taking this dive, we're gonna release so many releases on DVD, so many in theaters, so that way if it's not safe for you to go into the theaters, you can get it on DVD, or vice versa. Both ways you're helping out small independent companies, but that's just me making fucking sense, and I'm not a greedy cocksucker, so
Okay.
Well,
I've got three examples that I think we should examine from the perspective of how they were released and how they were received once they got released. The Irishman, Tenet, and Mandalorian. You switch the configurations around on any one of those three things, are they received the same way?
well,
Because I remember we went and saw a press screening of The Irishman, and then whenever it showed up on Netflix, everybody said this should have been a miniseries.
yeah,
It should have been broken up over several chapters.
right. And that's my question to you is, if we talk about The Mandalorian, are we talking about it as watching an entire season all at once, like it's a movie, or
Right.
each individual? Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see it that way, because I mean, once season 2 is done, absolutely. In fact, I'll probably watch the entire season 2 leading up to the final episode in 2 weeks. But I would say I agree with you about The Irishman. Okay, that movie was way too fucking long to sit in a theater. Hence why we sent you to the press screening instead of me going. Sorry.
My bladder couldn't handle The Irishman at home with a pause button. Okay.
Yeah. But Tenet, I think, was a great cinematic experience. Alex Moore and I went to go do a screening of that, and it was fine, whether you liked the movie or not. But
my point is, who's the studio behind Tenet?
that was Warner Brothers.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Because that theatrically, it kind of took a bath, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how much of that did this play into Warner making the decision that they made? because that was their big tent pole for the year. That was,
Well-
I think, they're testing the waters of let's see how this is received because of who was involved, because of how
Well, it
large
didn't-
scale
it-
it was, and then
it
it just
didn't-
kind of landed with a
Hey,
thud.
Chad, it didn't quite really take a bath. I'm looking
It
at
didn't?
the numbers right. No, I'm looking at the numbers right now. It's probably not as successful as they hoped, but
That's
its
what I
budget
mean.
was.
Yeah,
but
let
well,
me
hold on.
rephrase.
Hold on.
I should rephrase that because
Well,
I
its
know
budget-
it's
made
nowhere
money.
near on the level of what their accustomed Christopher Nolan films perform.
Well, here's what it did. Budget was 205 million, and its current U.S. box office draw to date is 357.8 million.
Okay,
so it's
that's pretty
made 100
respectable then. Yeah,
It's made 150 million, which, considering the times, that's pretty good haul.
yeah,
And
it is.
that's not even counting the worldwide box office for it.
I will say this, and then we'll move on to the other part of this week's Sound of the Apocalypse, because we can go on and on about it. We're talking about doing movies post a vaccine. With the vaccine being released and going into a new year, how does it change if people feel safer about being able to go out in public? And Ticketmaster is doing this deal where they want to bring back live music, but to buy tickets from them, they want you to have a record of, testing negative or having a record of getting a vaccine to be able to do something like that. And I'm not going to get into an argument about government control or socialism or any of the nonsense that usually goes on with Facebook. But I understand what they're trying to do in seeing, trying to make it safer so people can, go out.
Okay,
I
so
wonder-
they misrepresented those numbers. Let me give you an update on that. Google misrepresented those numbers. It actually furthers Chad's point because it made 300 worldwide, 300 million. It only made 57 million in the U.S. and Canada.
Okay, well, my point is,
yeah, that kind of was my point. Have we reached the level where if a movie doesn't make $1 billion worldwide, is it viewed a failure if you invested over 200 million in making it?
well, I think that's
That
an
almost
interesting
seems like
topic.
it's where we're at now.
But all I'm saying is, if we get to a point where you've got companies that are, requiring that stuff like this, what Ticketmaster is trying to do, does that change the landscape in being able to go to a movie theater to where it is safe to release your movies in a traditional format? And I think it is a bigger discussion. But again, the reason we throw this up into this week's Sound of the Apocalypse is it is, as to Scott's point, smaller theaters that carry movies like this, you are hurting them. And you are hurting US-backed theater chains like Cinemark and all that by doing this.
Oh yeah, smaller theaters. I mean, smaller theaters in small towns. One big movie probably pays. The weekend release for, say, Star Wars Episode 9 probably paid their entire rent for 3 months.
Well, here in Dallas, where we do a lot of events, the famed Texas Theater would be a good shining example. So, all right, the other part of this week's Side of the Apocalypse. This is for the gaming industry. We'll include it here. Two things we want to point out. If you are one of these third-party dealers that are snatching up hundreds or thousands of consoles to sell in your own store and then doubling the price, that's not good capitalism or anything. You're just a greedy bastard.
You're a capitalist if you fucking die horribly.
Yeah, especially if you're ripping people off by doing this and then giving them an empty box. You belong in the special hell with child molesters and, people like that.
Jesus.
No, you do. I mean,
I agree. I agree.
And I think Reverend Book would agree with me from Firefly. You are going to the special. The other thing that happens is when you have bad managers at places like GameStop or other retail outlets that, while limited capacity, decide to rip off the American people or consumers to get their own. And I will share a story by a woman here in Dallas, and she's a friend on Facebook, that kind of thing. Her sons camped out for 22 hours at a Denton, Texas GameStop, okay, to be there at 7 a.m. They were the first two people in line, and were told by the manager of the store that they had 2 PlayStation 5s in stock, okay? So they were going to get the only 2. I mean, they waited. They put the time in line. And come the morning, when the manager wasn't there and there was the shift lead opening up, they didn't have the PlayStations, and the manager got called out as not showing up for work, and he was high and playing video games.
Wow.
Well, yeah. What that really was is the manager lied to the consumer, to these two boys, and took a PlayStation for himself, which is wrong. And there's not really anything that can be done about it. They didn't get their PlayStation, and even if the manager gets fired, you can't return the PlayStation or anything like that. This isn't just one isolated incident. It
That's
happened.
fucking fraud. That's a crime.
It
Yeah.
is. And it goes into one of the things that we were kind of complaining about when Sony did their live stream, announced the date, and then Walmart screwed everything up by ignoring any future date when you can start reserving your console, and they had to start doing it immediately. Well, people like us, I never got a call, even from any of our contacts, that you can come in and do this, and wasn't able to pre-order a PlayStation 5. And it turned out, and I have found out, that, guess who got to pre-order stuff? Employees or friends of family and shit like that.
By
Instead
the way,
of,
that's new, because when the PS4 came out, I was actually had a part-time gig at GameStop, and we were not allowed to pre-order anything because it was all to go to consumers.
Exactly, which is supposed to be the rule. But I did find out, and I'm not, going to throw anybody under the bus, because the GameStop that we deal with, and the manager there is great. We praise them all the time. I go to one in Richardson. It's Jupiter and Beltline. I love Kat. She's always good to us, especially with information and stuff. But what I'm saying is that it happened across the board, between GameStop's getting limited stock and other retailers. But the people who got the pre-order, like I said, it was employees or friends and family. So it happened. This kind of thing happened. And it definitely deserves to be this week's Sign of the Apocalypse, because it shouldn't have been as bad being able to get your hands on stuff. I mean, I was very lucky to be able to get some stock at a local Target, by actually talking to managers about what they had in stock, going and waiting, early in the morning, and having a manager, as I explained in other podcasts, who came out, saw people in line, said, "We have 5 in stock. First 5 people in line, I'm taking your number down. I will text you so you don't have to wait out in the cold for 2 hours. And you can be here 30 minutes before we open." And they got everybody processed out and bought and took care of everything quickly in a great, smooth manner, especially with people signing up for the Target Red Card, where you got 5% off your purchase and other coupons. But if you're a third-party consumer trying to rip people off or jack up the price, you're not being a smart business person. You're just being an asshole. And if you're this manager at a GameStop, basically stealing a PlayStation 5 for 2 people who put the work in and wait nearly a day out in the cold to be the first in line, you're an asshole, and you belong in the special help. That's my personal opinion.
You also deserve to get your fucking kneecaps busted and your face rearranged, but that's just me.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not saying we propose violence on this show, but
I fucking do.
But we understand it.
But I'm also not going to stop if you're getting kneecapped, Anyway.
No, don't stop.
No word yet on if any stores are going to be in stock around Christmas, but I will say this: I hope that GameStop and other retailers where this is happening can hopefully do a better job in making it easier for consumers to get stuff, and also limiting the amount of purchases that you can do, especially when you're trying to reserve stuff online, because that's how a lot of these third party.
The big problem isn't getting it from GameStop. It's more from the Amazon type retailers, where people can use VPNs to spoof multiple IP addresses and have multiple accounts, so that they can buy even if Amazon says, okay, one per account, You know, these guys will just make 100 different accounts with 100 different VPNs and buy 100. So that's the real problem. That's where they're going to have the biggest issue in stopping this, scalping of systems. Your local GameStops aren't going to have a problem with it. Your local Targets and Walmarts aren't. It's going to be the big online retailers that are really going to have to figure out a way to prevent this.
Now, I will say this, because there's a flip side to this story. There was a guy, and I forget his name, but I messaged him just because I was curious about the ad. I'm always searching Facebook Marketplace for deals and stuff like that to help our staff. But a guy, his mother and his girlfriend, without talking to each other, both ended up getting him a PlayStation 5, ended up getting, a hold of one. And he was like, I don't need the extra one, and I know people do. He sold it for $50 over retail price. He made a little money off of it.
That's enough to buy one game. Hell, what I would have done is I would have just taken the whole thing back to GameStop and traded it in. Give me $500 in credit, or just give me an $500 in credit for games, or give me an Xbox One Series or Xbox Series X.
Yeah, I know, and and he could have easily done that. But
that chose to be a good damn Samaritan and go that way.
Yeah, but I got to hand it to him. I mean, he put that ad up, and within about 10 minutes. It was sold. Yeah, and no doubt. But I ended up, just chatting with him about things like, no, I'm not trying to make a buck here, even though I can. And
his inbox would have looked like that meme with the girl getting 100 hot dogs thrown at her face.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. But Brendan, you also hit the nail on the head. He made an extra $50.
He made enough to buy a game.
Yeah, that's what he did, and that's the right thing to do. I mean, without trying to make it like a.
And if he was smart, he would have taken the other 250. He had taken the other 500, split it up into 250 apiece, and bought a really nice present for his mom and his girlfriend.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, that's this. 2 items of this week's Sign of the Apocalypse. The moral of the story is, we just
don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Yeah.
Don't be a dick.
That's generally the moral of most stories. Pretty much the moral of most stories, and the moral of just the basic tenet of every major religion is don't be a dick.
Right.
Unless it's Scientology, and then their tenet is be a dick. Be the biggest dick you possibly can be.
They're not a religion. They're a cult.
That should be a t-shirt. The ultimate moral tale. Don't be a dick. You don't need to. And it can fit on a bumper sticker. All right. Moving right along. Also, since we're on another podcast, I want to give a shout out. We have Baby Yoda. Yes, I'm still calling him Baby Yoda, even though his name is Grogu. And if you haven't caught up with,
can I say something on that real quick? And I'll be real quick. For people who lose their mind about people calling it Baby Yoda, it's not Baby Yoda, it's the child, or it's Grogu. Let me put it to you this way. The official canonical name of Yoda's species is Yoda's species. So to call it a Baby Yoda is factually correct if you're using it as a title or a label rather than a name, because it is a Baby Yoda, just like once upon a time I was a baby human. End rant. Thank you.
Once upon a time?
Yeah. I just want to do this. I don't have a gavel, but the judge has spoken.
I have spoken.
Exactly. And Brendan is right. But anyway, I did want to give a shout out. We have a new thing in the studio. Want to give a shout out to Chad's wife, Shannon, who is a doll maker, who basically took I'm not going to say the crappy version made by Disney, but the not as good version, and made it better in an actual movie prop. And that's what we have here. So Grogu is always going to be with us and stuff like that. And she will be making more, and we'll get information out about that if you are interested in getting this handsome devil here.
Absolutely. Holler at me.
So, all right. we're not going to talk. Yeah, and that's all we're going to say about The Mandalorian. We have a big show coming up in 2 weeks, and we're going to talk about season 2 and everything. Even though we've all been texting each other, geeking out, like our inner child just keeps coming. I do like Brendan. Have you watched the episode yet? Like Brendan, I'm doing a broadcast. We'll get to it. And then once I was done, fuck yeah.
What? By the way, what did you think of my theory of who might show up, though?
I did. I liked it, and I think that would be very interesting. But fortunately, it's going to be a long 2 weeks before we get to that show because there's so much we want to talk about. But
just
anyway.
Message me on Facebook, Chad. I'll tell you all about it.
Okay, well, absolutely.
All right. So, unfortunately, Alex Moore cannot be joining us this morning. He is being a sports broadcaster for hockey. That's his other gig. But this is a topic that he kind of came up with. And unfortunately, we just, in the mix with our schedule and the way things have happened, we are doing this morning. But we are talking about bad movies, the worst movies we've ever seen. We've been forced to see them because of what we do, or we were duped by a studio and thinking it was a good movie. But there's two themes to this: bad movies that have no redeeming value, never should have been made, that we will never watch again, or bad movies that, again, they're bad movies, but we can't help but watch again. And we do go back and watch them from time to time, whether it's on cable or we actually own a copy. So we're all going to be going around the room and picking a movie for the next hour or so and just discussing why it's bad, why we'll watch it again. And so we'll be voting on, do we watch it again, or do we just say no redeeming value whatsoever? And I'm going to start with the obvious movie in nerd culture. Now, you might think that I was giving you a little subtle hint with our music cue about episode 1 from Star Wars, but no, I'm not talking about that movie, because I will absolutely watch that movie many times over the one I'm about to mention, because at least episode 1 had a cool lightsaber duel at the end and cool music. But the first movie I want to start with is Batman and Robin with George Clooney.
Holy rusted metal Batman.
So my subtle hint of what I was going to choose first is my Batman t-shirt, and no nipples are available on this shirt. Unlike in the movie where someone, let's make the bat suit more authentic by putting nipples on it.
Curiously, there weren't one on Batgirls, though.
Yeah, I know. And that's the irony of what they did with that movie. Not only is it absolutely terrible and just
that movie. Put it this way: that movie killed Alicia Silverstone and Christopher O'Donnell's careers.
Christopher O'Donnell,
like George Clooney was beyond having his career killed at that point, and so was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Jim Carrey, all them. So it's like, well, that was Jim Carrey's Batman Forever, I guess. But yeah, so it was just like, yeah, those people were beyond heavy. But that movie literally killed the budding careers of two were at the time A-list actors.
Yeah,
just destroyed it pitifully.
I get if you want to introduce Batgirl into the Batman franchise, that's fine. Okay, and it's not like Chris O'Donnell was a terrible Robin. He really wasn't. It's just it looks very 90s. I'll put it to you this way: we can still watch the Michael Keaton Batman movie, and
it still looks like Gothic revival.
Right. It still holds up 30 years later. Okay, you watch the Joel Schumacher versions of Batman, and it's like, wow.
It's like the entire movie was filmed in a 1990s abandoned warehouse that held a rave party.
And you were on a really, really bad trip. You were on a really bad techno trip, and you had no idea what the fuck was going on or where your friends were. You're just like,
right. Yeah, having to sit in the theater and watch that movie.
Somebody gave you a pill. You thought it was X. It was really acid, and life went. You took the wrong left turn at Albuquerque.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I do like about this movie is the fact that George Clooney can poke fun at himself of that he made it, and apologizes constantly for ruining the Batman franchise. He has a good heart. He has a good head about it. So, I mean, but yeah, for us nerds, we look back at like movies that never should have been made, and that's saying something because there was the Fantastic Four movie that came out a few years ago that
God, like every time they try to do Fantastic Four, like even the Chris O'Donnell ones were, or not Chris, what's Chris, the Captain
Evans.
America.
Chris
yeah,
Evans.
Chris Evans. Too many damn Chris's in Hollywood. Anyway,
Yeah, really.
I mean, they really are like and they all kind of look the same too. It's weird.
It's like all them
but-
chicks look like Katy Perry.
Anyway,
well, but yeah, Batman and Robin is definitely one of those movies that I will never watch again. And I love the fact that you get Blu-ray or DVD like box sets with all four of those Batman movies. And at least my thought is, can I get some money off of this box set by not including that movie? Is there anything?
just can we get the DVD, the Blu-ray with Batman and Batman Returns on it, and just leave the other two
Right.
off?
Joel Schumacher, you were good at 80s young people trying to figure out what they were going to do with their lives type, something like St. Elmo's Fire. Batman, no. We don't need 90s.
Like what comic did he look at where he went black lights and neon paint? Like what Batman comic gave him that inspiration? Because I've never read it.
I don't know. Maybe we're not giving Joel enough credit. Maybe he was going through this weird stage in his life. He was dating somebody 30 years younger than him. He was being really influenced, and he was just really in a weird place in the drug scene. And
That's oddly plausible.
So what you're saying is, if you're getting a blowjob by someone who's 30 years younger than you, that's not the time to come up with movie ideas.
No.
No, you come up with movie ideas on the toilet like every other man comes up with his best ideas.
Right. Exactly. All right.
Like Spock, you were emotionally
That's my
compromised.
pick to start this off. Brendan, I'm going to turn it over to you. What's the first movie you suggest that is a
Okay, so I'm going to go a little different here. I'm going to do an entire trilogy because because as individual movies, they're just mediocre. But as an entire trilogy, which is supposed to be telling one cohesive story, the Star Wars sequel trilogy is an abysmal failure. Look, throughout the entire trilogy, even Daisy Ridley recently came out and said this. In The Force Awakens, she was Kenobi's daughter. In the second one, she was nobody. In the third one, J.J. Abrams came up to her at the beginning of filming and said, "We're going to make you Palpatine's granddaughter." And she's like, "Oh, that's really cool." And then they said, "Well, maybe we're not going to do that. We haven't decided yet." They didn't decide on who she was. And this is straight out of her mouth in an interview. You can go look it up online. It's everywhere. Until halfway through filming Rise of Skywalker. So she is literally Rey, Kenobi, nobody, Palpatine, Skywalker. Because then she takes the Skywalker name for reasons.
I will say this. I will still watch the movies, and I still want the 4-hour J.J. Abrams kind of Rise of Skywalker.
Like I said, as individual movies, they're just mediocre. But as an entire story looked at as a trilogy, it's an abysmal failure.
Okay. What I'm going to say is, I think this is a pure case of having the wrong people involved in Star Wars.
100%.
Yeah. They look good. I'm not one of those that hates The Last Jedi. I think there's a lot of things that are good and work and get back to good filmmaking when it comes to Star Wars. I see what you're saying. Don't necessarily disagree. But I think this is when you get the talking heads that are not creative people, but are looking at it from a marketing perspective. We have to do this and pay fan service because they hate it. No. You have to get the creative people that understand Star Wars, that know how to tell a story.
JJ just made The Force Awakens was A New Hope 2.0. He made a safe movie that was going to make money, and that's what he was paid to do. And then, Rian Johnson tried to, he even said, he was more concerned with subverting fan expectations. okay, how about you be more concerned with making a good film?
Yeah,
Like that's your
let that
job.
be the top
Like,
of your
that's-
list.
that's got to be like, okay, like subverting fan expectations is fine, and you know, having twists and turns that people don't see coming is a worthy goal. But when you just shove them down our throat, it's not really a twist, and B, you know, it can't be the end goal. It has to be part of the goal. Like the goal should be a good movie.
Well, I also think too that if you're going to do a trilogy, you need to have one filmmaker, one vision to tell that entire trilogy.
That, not necessarily. Like you need because you need. I think you need a team of writers working together with one head writer, and I think you need an executive producer who has a outline that is, this is the outline we are going to do. Now you guys fill it in, and you can have 3 different directors do it. That, I mean, the original trilogy had 3 different directors. It was George Lucas, Lawrence Kasdan, and
Right,
I
but it
forget
had
who
one
directed the third.
storyteller in George Lucas.
Exactly, and that's my point. It had direction, and I think the real failure of those movies is there was little to no leadership from Kathleen Kennedy.
Well, I'm a storyteller, so I always look at storytelling first. One vision on the storytelling. If you want to have different directors take that vision and help you along with how it should be edited, what scene should go in, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's why Empire Strikes Back is the best, because of Irving Kershner being able to take that and say, this is what works better compared to this.
Yeah, like they should have had Kasdan just do the storytelling throughout all 3 and then let the guys direct it.
Right.
But yeah, it was there's so many things that pop out of that, like, that make no sense the more I think about them. Like the Sith dagger. Okay, so after Return of the Jedi, somebody made this Sith dagger to point out where the holocron was. Oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't a Sith holocron, it was a Wayfinder. It was a fucking holocron. You know, you had to stand right at the exact spot to use this dagger. And she's going, this dagger has done terrible things. Yeah, you're wearing the Youngling Slayer 9000 on your hip, okay? Like, you're literally wielding the blade that Anakin freaking murdered the entire Jedi Temple with, and you're complaining about what you're holding in your hand. Okay. You know, it's like it made no sense. And why would you, if the Empire has an entire fleet of ships on Exegol, why would they need these 2 things to make a map? Because they've already obviously
Brendan,
made a map.
I'm gonna say this. Are you never gonna watch this trilogy again?
Probably not. I haven't.
All right. I'm a little bit different. I will definitely go back and watch it from time to time because there are things that I like about it. That's just me. Scott, we know you haven't seen anything beyond The Force Awakens and don't really care. So,
Yeah.
Chad, would you go back and watch it again?
I have, just to go back and point and laugh at it, because you know it's just I'm with Brendan on this. I'm like, you had the world at your feet, basically. You had people eating out of your hand that were basically going to scoop up whatever you fed them. We are living testimonials of that. The sad thing is, everybody let their own agendas and egos and social justice causes get in the way of what should have been a good story that they just completely, like Brendan said, wrote on the fucking fly. I mean, that's not good storytelling. That's not good filmmaking. Nothing about it was
my only final comment on it is, if for those that, you know, we've done a documentary or tried to about, you know, Disney taking over, having new movies, and why it hasn't gotten finished is because of this conversation. It's more than just talking about one movie. It's how our perspectives have changed looking at Disney and how they're doing Star Wars, because you kind of have, and it is a bigger conversation, which for another time, but you do have these 2 different sides to it, where you have this creative team that seems to do everything right and knows how to tell a story, versus the corporate side, which, if you want the irony, you have the light side, or the rebels, that seem to know what they're doing, versus the evil Empire. But anyway.
And The Mandalorian isn't perfect, but it's so much better.
Yes.
Than
but
what came out.
And we got to move along. We got to move on. But it's a bigger conversation that we keep exploring. So, to why a film that we wanted to do is now going to turn into an actual series, because there's too much of a conversation that has to happen and too many points that happen. That's hard to boil down in just 2 hours.
Yeah.
So, anyway, all right. Chad, how about you? Bad movie. What's the worst movie you've ever seen? Would you see it again or not?
This one is a press screening I will never forget. As I watched people just trickle out one by one over the course of an unbearable screening time at the Angelica by a very well thought of, very, very highly respected director that people seem like they're just obsessed with working with. And I'm sure that once they've worked with, they're like, what the fuck did I do that for, other than just to have it on my resume? But one Terrence Malick's Knight of Cups.
That even sounds stupid. What the fuck is that?
Oh my God. If you have ever imagined what sitting through a 2-hour plus Calvin Klein cologne commercial would be like, watch Knight of Cups. It is absolutely you would think. Let me give me a
So
like
basically,
a
this is that
rundown.
commercial where Johnny Depp just goes out into the desert
Yeah.
and buries a necklace.
Yeah. Listen to this cast, Brendan. Christian Bale, Kate Blanchett, Natalie Portman, Brian Dennehy, Antonio Banderas playing Antonio Banderas, Imogen Poots, Teresa Palmer. There's Michael Wincott, Jason Clarke, Joel Kinnaman, Nick Offerman. Some really, really good names involved in this. And
By the way, Michael Wincott was the greatest villain of the 90s. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yes, he was. But how can you take the pool of talent that you've got and the prestigious name, for whatever fucking reason, of Terrence Malick? I've heard George Lucas being quoted as saying, "Never has a man done so much with so little."
Yeah.
Because his body of work is relatively small, and people just fight to work with the guy. And then I remember sitting in this movie going, "What the fuck am I watching?"
Okay.
So the answer is no, you're never going to watch it again.
No. And I think it should be pointed out that this was one of those experimental films where it's like, we're not really going to have a script. We're just going to let you do your thing as an actor. No, This is why you have a script. You got to have some coherent story of what you're trying to tell. I was not at that press screening. Alex told me all about it. I did later watch a screener in the background while I was working. I thought I was on acid that I mistakenly took or something because I didn't know what the fuck I was watching. And it reminded me of a film festival movie that I saw back in 2014 where I was eating lunch in the theater. Like I was sitting in the top row in the corner eating lunch, and I fell asleep during the movie. And it was a film called The Congress that Robin Wright in it. And it was about an actress whose career was waning. So some secret society rotoscopes you and animates you into some secret society. I don't know what the fuck was going on. All I know is I fell asleep halfway through the movie. And it was at that point in time that I'm like, I will get a screener list from now on instead of trying to see some of these films. And I've never heard that film mentioned again. I've never seen it anywhere. And I think it's kind of like the Star Wars Holiday Special by the producers and the director, where they try to act like it doesn't exist. And I know
we don't talk about it.
The first rule of the Knight of Cups is we don't talk about Knight of Cups.
I'm telling you, man. This for me, this put Terrence Malick in kind of Lars von Trier territory. I'm like, you're just doing shit for the sake of doing shit.
Well, I've got good news for you. He's got a movie that he is the writer, director, and producer on called The Last Planet, which is in post-production.
Can't wait not to see that.
I do not completely hate him as a director. There are 2 movies that I do like that he did. I think The Thin Red Line is an interesting movie. And having come out the same year as Saving Private Ryan, it offers a different perspective of World War II and soldiers dealing with war. I'm not saying it's a great movie, but I think it's an interesting one and offers that other perspective. It's not one I would go back and watch over and over. The one I really do like is The New World with Christian Bale and Colin Farrell, and I forget the actress's name. She's Hawaiian and pops up and stuff here and there, but it's about the Jamestown settlement. It's gritty cinema. I mean, the cinematography is beautiful, and because they used all classical music, it's the orchestration is just beautiful. That's my favorite film of his because I think he offered a more gritty look at the colony.
Hey,
in the New World.
Marcus, I think we can forgive you for forgetting this woman's name because it is not easy to pronounce. It is Q''ORIANKA, Koryanka.
Oh, Koryanka Kilker, yeah.
I only was thinking about it because she was in the last season of or season 3 of Yellowstone.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, she's popped up and stuff here and there. But anyway.
Well, I'm not saying Terrence Malick is without merit, but even Spielberg did in 1941. You know, even Lucas did in episode 1. Oh shit, I'm sorry.
You're not wrong.
Speaking of episode 1,
I apologize.
It's terrible film. But we will at least watch the last 20 minutes of the film. Because the lightsaber duel is cool. All right.
Yes.
Scott, what is
negotiations were short.
Scott, how about you? Give us a bad movie that either you'll watch again or you'll never watch again.
Never watch again. I know that Brendan mentioned it before we got active. It was one that I was planning on mentioning and hoping no one was going to steal it. But The Room.
Oh,
amen.
God.
Never watching it again.
Oh my God.
I will absolutely watch The Disaster Artist with James Franco about the making of this
You're
film.
tearing me apart.
Mark, Lisa. That's 3/4 of the movie right fucking there.
I know.
And then
Here,
what the fuck?
you know what? Everybody, if you have the dream to make a movie and you have the cash to do it, absolutely go off and do it.
But I mean, who the fuck is this guy anyway? I mean, like, honestly, who the fuck is he?
Nobody knows. He and somebody was trying to do a documentary about Tommy Wiseau, and he filed a lawsuit to get it stopped because he doesn't want anybody to really know who he is or how he got his money. Somebody did figure out it was real estate investments is how he became a millionaire. But anyway, yeah, that's another shining example of just because you write and direct and create a movie doesn't mean that you shouldn't have other people around you giving you feedback, constructive criticism.
Yeah, I know that actor that played Mark in the movie, like people have tried to interview him about that movie before in the past, and he refuses to talk about it. Like he will act like it never was made.
Yeah, but at the same time, he still works with Tommy. They made another couple of movies here in the last couple of years. I don't know what they're called. I just remember a press release about it, and they were being released in theaters independently. But there wasn't. But in our industry, I mean, we normally don't deal with it unless we get a press screening or a screener or something. And I eventually heard about it, and then it disappeared. I'm sure it's on there.
He was in something as a bit part recently that we didn't hate. The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Mark was?
Yeah. Greg Sestero, the actor, he played. It's just Fiance is the title. He was in 2 episodes apparently as a bit part.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I
Maybe
don't
there's
really
an
know what he looks
extra
like.
one.
So here's my question about The Room. Again, why do we keep doing screenings of this film when it is so bad? I mean, unless you're purposely setting it up for riff tracks where the audience gets to participate in tearing it down, then I understand.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head right there, Marcus. That's pretty much why they do it. They do it for people to come out and make fun of the movie.
Dude,
Well,
okay. The worst impression I ever had of this movie is I remember, for whatever fucking reason, back in its like semi-weird coming to its crescendo popularity of Adult Swim, when they did a fucking Friday night fucking special thing or whatever, and they essentially blocked out their entire program to play that movie, horribly censored. Like 3/4 of the fucking film is a black box. You can't even see it. They played it not just once, but 3 times in a fucking row that night. Like, you could not watch Adult Swim at all. It was awful. My life was ruined.
And the moral of the story is, no, I understand what you're saying. But I do like, it's always interesting too that Tommy Wiseau will show up at various screenings. Alex was telling me this last year. He took a date to go see one of the midnight screenings, and Tommy Wiseau was there and took a picture of him. Like, but that's something that we could have actually turned into an interview. And not that it would have been a great interview. I just think it would have been interesting to talk to him about, you know, why he still looks at this. I mean, I think every creator, you always have the best intentions with stories, things that you do, and then you kind of look back, it's like it's not really that good. I mean, I've got stories that are like, I don't really know what I was thinking at the time, but you know, now I'm just like, it's not really that good. But yeah, that movie, okay, it's just ridiculous. All right, so I'm going to give you a movie that is a terrible movie, but I still can't help but watch. And it's called Dumb and Dumber.
It is an awful movie. And yes, I will watch it again.
Really look at it. It is an awful movie.
It's a god-awful movie, but it's fucking funny.
It's great, isn't it? Just and that 20 minutes of, you know, is I don't know why.
So you're saying there's a chance.
But it's also a very quotable movie. If you just literally look at the entire, and as great of an actor as Jeff Daniels is all the stuff that he has done, the fact that he is in that movie, and then they made a sequel to it.
I put that up there in the category of Step Brothers. You know,
yeah.
I mean, you know what? That's another one. It's a terrible movie, but anytime it's on,
sorry guys,
I will watch it. I will absolutely watch Step Brothers. And I think that movie is just another shining example of getting John Riley and Will Ferrell together to just do a movie and be stupid, you know, and somebody pay for it. You're like, I'd watch that. I don't know what it's about, but
with bad movies, if you're gonna make like a quote bad movie and you know it's stupid and you know that it's kind of gonna be a bad film and you just fucking roll with it, like Dumb and Dumber did or like Step Brothers did, that's how you get really, really, really good movies. Or that's how you get movies like Hot Shots. You know, I mean, that was kind of fun. It was a horrible fucking movie, but it's really good.
Right. At least they know they don't take themselves seriously.
Yeah. But yeah, where they're trying to be super serious and like, you know, tell like Vanilla Skies, you know, or Eyes Wide Shut, you know, and it's just like, what the fuck are you doing?
All right, here's a direct quote from Cameron Crowe on Vanilla Sky. He was like, I wanted to make a movie that people would think about, and when they walked out, they would discuss that they would be talking about that movie. And I'm like, was your intention for them to be talking about how shitty it was?
Yeah, like there's a lot of ways to get us to talk about your movie, but they're not all pleasant.
Right. Is the conversation about your movie the argument I have with the theater to get a refund?
Yeah. Or how angry I am that delicious dinner I had before the movie just came up right there and it's now all down the front of my new shirt.
I was gonna say, or how angry the person in front of you was because it's all over them.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But yeah, Dumb and Dumber is just my pick of it was a dorm room movie when I was in college, and it's completely stupid. I've gone back to watch it now, and I'm like, I have no idea why I still laugh at this movie.
What the fuck am I watching?
I think really, I look back at it now as the cameo by Hall of Fame hockey player Eric Neely. Kick his ass, Seabass!
Cam Neely.
Yeah, Cam Neely. Where am I getting Eric? Anyway, yeah. But really my favorite line from that movie, where did you get that? I was able to raise some money. I sold some stuff. To who? The blind kid. What? Baseball cards, bubble gum, Petey. Petey? He had no head.
I took care of her.
Got no food, got no jobs, our pets' heads are falling off.
Again, this stupid movie, but we quoted. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's my pick of a movie that I will still watch, but it is absolutely terrible. Brendan, what's another movie for you?
So I just want to say that in researching this, there are 40 movies on IMDb that have a 0, or on the Rotten Tomatoes that have a 0.
Really?
40. There are no redeeming qualities to these movies. I'm going to give you some of them on the list real quick, and then realize that my movie is none of them. Okay. Okay. Police Academy 4.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
Where's the other ones I wanted to mention real quick? Highlander
Had that
2.
really great rap song, Citizens on Patrol.
Highlander 2.
Oh, yes.
And here's the pièce de résistance, Jaws 4. Because I know that's Marcus's favorite. But now my movie is none of those. Mine is Green Lantern. A movie so bad that the star of the film has constantly made fun of it ever since its release.
This is true.
To the point where he even shoots a movie where he kills himself while reading the script so he never gets a chance to play it.
All right. I get to share this experience of when Brendan really likes a movie, like at a press screening. When Brendan is laughing so hard that he rolls out of his seat. And he's not only done it once, but twice at the press screening of Deadpool. Yeah.
And that was it. That was a reason.
Yeah, when he shot himself in the Green Lantern.
I know.
You're welcome, Canada.
I also feel like it's not a Deadpool movie unless there's at least one joke about making Green Lantern.
Don't make the super suit green or animated.
Or animated, yeah.
Hello there, fellow nerds. I'm Marcus Blake, the editor and producer of That Nerd Show, and we need your help. That's right, we need your support. Like any news outlet, we rely on advertising and donations to keep the lights on. To be the greatest show in this universe, we need funding, and that's where you come in. Like most artists out there, we actually have a Patreon account, and we're asking for donations. But we're not just asking for you to give us money. We actually have stuff that we're going to be giving away if you donate. So we'll be uploading more and more videos to our Patreon account from YouTube, from our daily news to interviews with celebrities to gaming videos and all of our other individual shows that we are doing here in 2020. But to keep us going, we need a little bit of funding. And again, that's where you come in. So it can be as little as $1. $1 makes all the difference in the world. And you can do anywhere from $1 to $3 to $5, all the way up to $500. And we're going to be giving stuff away for your donations. So you could get some Nerd Power wristbands, or any other wristbands from our series of wristbands that we're creating for nerds. You can get cool retro gaming t-shirts from our Nerd Swag shop if you make a donation of $20 or more. You can even get advertising on our website or within our videos if you make a purchase or donate $50 or more dollars. We have different tiers, like most artists. Want that new video game that's coming out this year? You want to be playing the same video game we are as we're reviewing it? Hey, you can do that with a $100 donation. Are you looking to get a new console before the year is out? Hey, $500 and you can get an Xbox One, a PlayStation 4, or even a Nintendo Switch. It just takes a little bit to help us. As little as $1 per video that we do. And we're going to have a variety of videos that you can help support. So if you like our content, if you like everything that we do as nerds, from honest conversations about pop culture to great celebrity interviews to wacky and fun gaming videos, then help support us on our Patreon account. You can check us out at patreon.com/thatnerdshow. You can check us out at patreon.com/that. Take 3. Go to patreon.com/thatnerdshow and make your donation today. Even if it's just $1. We would greatly appreciate it. Thank you and stay nerdy. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to superhero movies, you just have to ask, whoever made Green Lantern, was it the same people behind Batman and Robin?
Yeah. Or Howard the Duck.
So what you're saying, Brendan, is you'll never watch that again?
Actually, you know what? I might, just because I want to go back and watch it now through the lens of having him made fun of it for the last 10 years. And just kind of just capture how I've only seen it once. I actually haven't seen it since the theater, but yeah, because I was like, cool, Green Lantern, cool. You know, Ryan Reynolds, he was just fresh off Blade Trinity at the time. And I thought he was hilarious in Blade Trinity. And I was like, you know, Blade Trinity is another bad movie, but Ryan Reynolds was funny in it. And I'm sitting there going, well, that was awful.
Sorry, any movie where Ryan Reynolds calls somebody a cum gargling thundercut, I'm kind of on board with.
Yeah, or tell somebody to stick a sugar frosted fuck off the end of his dick. Yeah, that was one of my favorite ones.
Connects with the satellite, which is in space.
Oh, wait, hold on. I didn't hear you. I know the answer now. It's right underneath my it's embedded in my tape, right underneath my Hello Kitty tattoo.
That was one of my two favorite torturing scenes of all time. The other one is when Daniel Craig's being tortured in Casino Royale, and he goes, "No, to the left," and he's like, "Now everybody knows you've done scratch my balls."
Right. All right, Chad, give us another movie. A terrible film that you would either watch again or not watch again.
Well, these are movies that I know people consider terrible films, but they're all guilty pleasures of mine. And I really can't name you one film, but pretty much anything that Dino De Laurentiis produced in the 70s.
Okay. Such as
70s and 80s. Flash Gordon, King Kong, Orca. Every one of them I have in my media server because I love all three of them. They're all guilty pleasures of mine.
Okay.
Conan the Barbarian. I know people that either hate that movie or love that movie, but he was involved in that too.
Actually, I don't hate Conan the Barbarian. I mean, is Arnold Schwarzenegger a great actor? No, and he knows he's not. But I also like the fact that he knew he wasn't and enlisted James Earl Jones to kind of give him acting lessons as they were making that movie. You know, he recognized his faults and was able, but anyway, it's also one of the better John Milius films.
Yes.
I will say this about Flash Gordon. If you look at it as a whole, yes, it is kind of terrible and over the top. However,
terrible and over the top, kind of.
I was trying to be nice. but sure. But
Ming started over the top, man. He went from there.
but it has a really good cast, and the fact that we've actually gotten to interview Sam Jones about that movie, okay, and he is extremely nice. You know, gave us one of the best answers about our superhero question, that he would always want to be Batman because he was a thinking detective. And also, I have the ultimate respect for him, that when we sat down to do our interview, he made us change seat and said, "I'm still an old Marine. I don't have my back to the door." I was like, fair enough. But that movie, it is a guilty pleasure. It's terrible,
Absolutely.
but you still go back and watch it. Okay. And I mean, to have that kind of a cast, you know, for a movie, even with it being over the top, and doesn't really hold up that well, but it's just kind of fun to watch because of its ridiculousness, I will give you that.
Oh yeah, I tracked down. I mean, my wife and I tracked down. Matter of fact, here's proof of it. Tracked it down in 4K. Had to. I've got the original Blu-ray. I've got the Savior of the Universe edition. I've got the Mondo Steelbook edition. I'm obsessed with this movie. I have been all my life.
Okay.
And I am not ashamed of that.
Speaking of over the top.
Yes, I know.
Oh man, I was gonna. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good.
I've got the original. When I got my first stereo in the Christmas of 1980, which was right around the time that movie got released, that was the vinyl that I got with it. I've still got it. The original Queen soundtrack of Flash Gordon on vinyl. Still own it.
That's why you honestly can't totally hate that movie, because it's got one of the greatest soundtracks ever.
Amen.
So, yeah. But anyway, all right. Scott, what's another movie for you?
Okay, this is just me being a little dick, and because I'm nostalgia that way. Garbage Pail Kids, that they made in the 80s. It's a fantastically awful film. It's hot garbage. It's flaming dog shit, but I love it, and I will always watch that movie. So it's great. I mean,
Okay.
absolutely great.
I'd forgotten that they did make a movie about that. Yeah. So,
Great.
Interesting. All right, I'm going to give you another like dorm room movie from the 90s. You know, it's 25 years old this year, and the reason I bring it up is it was literally quoted as the worst movie that Roger Ebert ever had to review. I was reading a list of like all the movies that he absolutely hated, like Armageddon and stuff, and this one was number one on his list. He said it had no redeeming value whatsoever, and I disagree, because I have a lot of respect with Roger Ebert, and both him and George Seascold. But the movie is Tommy Boy with Chris Farley and David Spade.
Oh, I love that movie. I'm sorry, I love that movie.
No. Here's my reasoning for it. If you look at it as a whole, it is kind of terrible. It's convoluted plot, and none of this really makes that sense. It was really just an excuse for two friends from SNL to get together and do a road trip movie, and that's all it is. And to enlist other like funny actors that, if you look at it, it just isn't that believable. But it's almost like you took a really good SNL skit and carried it over into an hour and a half road trip movie with two guys that, of our age group that, grew up with these guys on SNL, and it works. And I always constantly find myself laughing. It is, again, like Dumb and Dumber, so incredibly quotable.
Save yourself! You're trying to use this against them!
Right, yeah. And the whole scene where he catches David Spade's character masturbating, And it's just making the joke.
Is your favorite Little Rascal Alfalfa or Spanky?
Come on, Richard. Don't you want me to make you happy? Rip.
Exactly.
Oh.
And I was listening to some interview about David Spade about just the things that they would do to improv that ended up in the movie. And the fat guy in the little coat thing was them just fooling around on set with the camera on. And it was like, you knew what was going to happen once he put my coat on, that he would rip it, because that was Chris Farley. And yeah, again, I get where Roger Ebert is going with how he reviewed that movie as like the worst movie he ever had to watch. But I also think he didn't appreciate it for what it was, or didn't really understand that new generation of an SNL cast with, Sandler or Adam Sandler, Farley.
It's Chris Farley and David Spade.
Right, but I'm saying the SNL cast: Adam Sandler, David Spade, Chris Farley, Chris Rock, and Mike Myers, and all those guys. But I think that you could look at every SNL movie, as they're not, on the grand scheme of things, they're not really those great of movies from a story point. They're just stupid fun that you can enjoy.
Just meant to make you laugh.
Well,
you're not supposed to have to think at an SNL movie.
Yeah, no. What were his opinions of the National Lampoon movies? I mean, like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, one of the dumbest fucking movies of all time, and it's great.
Animal House,
European Vacation. That is really one of the most horrible Chevy Chase films ever fucking made.
Yeah. And brings up a good point. Animal House, such a convoluted kind of plot, and there is literally no way that anybody.
There isn't really a plot to Animal House. Let's be honest.
No, there isn't.
There's no definable goal. It's just a series of ridiculous events.
So I think any bad making of that time was literally, a bad review of the time for Tommy Boy or anything like that. Were literally just people hamming on Chris Farley, because I mean, he had a huge reputation of just being him,
But it also kind of, and the reason I bring this movie up and talk about Roger Ebert is I get onto critics who try to review movies all of the same way. No, movies have to be put in different categories. If you want to review a movie as this great movie that goes up against Schindler's List or Citizen Kane or whatever, that's fine. But sometimes you literally just you review a movie to understand what it is. Review a movie like Tommy Boy on the fact that it's just a dumb comedic movie. If it made you laugh and you're quoting from the movie, then it's not an absolute bad movie. The plot may not make sense, but it doesn't have to. If it makes you laugh, okay? And it shouldn't be in the same category as these all-time great movies. I'm not going to put that movie in the same category as Casablanca and say this is why it's a cinematic masterpiece. It's not, but it makes me laugh.
But at the same time, we can also argue, how many critics literally called, movies like Vanilla Skies fucking amazing and pivotal, and the fucking movie of the year, and it's like it was hot goddamn garbage, and you don't know what the fuck you're saying.
Right. You're writing a review because it's such an artistic film that makes sense. No, it's just somebody put a camera on these people to let them do their thing, and there's no reason why that should have ever happened.
Yeah, okay. Eyes Wide Shut comes to mind.
Yeah. Hey, I won't knock that movie completely because I can't talk about it from with its metaphors and all that. But you're right. But I understand what you're saying, that if you look at it as a whole, like you're dealing with two people they're having trouble with their sex life. So one guy goes out and ends up meeting some sex cult.
They already made that film. It was called Far and Away.
And Days of Thunder,
yeah, right. So, but anyway, I throw Tommy Boy out there because
the irony of that movie is that they end up saving their marriage at the end, but then in real life it destroys their marriage.
Yeah, I know.
It was NXIVM, the movie.
Wow.
That's right. I said it. I said it.
You know, I love to make that joke about that Smallville episode where Chloe, Lana, and Lois get taken over by witches and have Clark tied up in the barn as like a promotional video for Nexum. But I think
Oh,
Eyes
Jesus.
Wide Shut. I think Eyes Wide
that,
Shut was the early, yeah.
I was about to say that was an inside window to Chloe's mentality right there. We all should have known. We all
Yeah.
should have
We should have all known.
The
I'll give
writing
you
was
one
on the
more
wall.
SNL movie that's completely stupid, but I'll still watch again. Night at the Roxbury.
God.
No redeeming value, really, but it's still kind of hilarious. All right, Brendan, what's another one for you?
All right, this is one I will never ever watch again. I watched it in the theater and it was horrible, horrible. And I'm shocked to read this. Despite making many of the worst movie films ever list, it was not nominated for a Razzie Award. Shocking. It also lost $50 million. Its budget was $70 million and its cumulative worldwide gross was $20,154,000. And today's money, that's $72 million. Yeah. So it lost basically more money than they lost more money than they spent on it, which is ridiculous.
And what is this?
Ballistic X versus Sever.
Oh, God.
Oh my God! How, dude? Jesus.
I saw this in the theater and it was god awful. And I went to see it mainly because it had Ray Park.
Ray Park, yeah.
And it
That's
had
the only reason I went
Talicia
and saw it.
Soto. And I have had a freaking crush on Talicia Soto since James Bond and
Living
Mortal
Daylights
Kombat. Okay, because she was Princess Katana in the first Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
So like I've had a childhood crush on her my whole life. So I went to see that movie for those two people, and A, they weren't in it all that long, and B, it was just the worst thing. It basically killed Antonio Banderas' career, and it didn't do much for Lucy Liu's either.
Yeah, but he was able to redeem herself with Charlie's Angels. He hasn't done shit. No.
Yeah, he's pretty much died after this, but it
Wow.
was it just it's basically all action for 2 hours, and it's not even really that well done action. It's like it's 1980s action with a 2002 budget. Like that's the best way I can.
Oh, like Die Another Day?
Yeah. Which at least Timothy Olyphant had some decent lines in that movie. But no, not Die Another Day. I'm thinking that's Live Free or Die Hard. Sorry. But yeah, Die Another Day was pretty bad too. But yeah, it's just like I can't even describe it on the list of the 40 movies that got 0 on IMDb. It's actually rated the worst one. So it's not just a bad movie; it's the worst of the worst movies.
Dude, if you think that's bad, he went on to make this movie recently where he fucking is some kind of like robot inspector that investigates malfunctions and accidents and everything else like that, and he ends up falling in love with an AI and then helping it escape
And kills all of humanity.
Yeah.
Who is this?
Banderas.
Oh,
Antonio Banderas. I forget the name of the movie, but like, no, he's straight up. He
Just like, think about this. The Room has a tomato meter from critics of 24%.
Wow.
X versus Sever has 0.
wow.
I think people often forget that when you were once kind of a famous actor, you still got to keep working, and you end up making like a series of B movies. Antonio Banderas has started to do this. Obviously, Bruce Willis is making all these kind of B action movies now.
But this wasn't a
Cage.
B movie. This was a $70 million budget in 2002. This was a mainstream, wide release.
Yeah.
you know, and it was like 108, like it's not even a small sample. 118 reviewers reviewed this movie and nobody found even the slightest redeeming quality to it.
Right. Interesting. Cool. Chad, what's another movie for you? Chad,
Yes.
what's another movie for you?
You know, I kind of got to put, just because I'm a lifelong devotee of the film, and I know that it was made kind of bad intentionally, but Rocky Horror Picture Show.
You don't get on the bandwagon that it's like a, you know, seminal piece of cinematic history. Great.
No, it was crap, and they knew it was crap when they were making it. It's like they knew that it was done ironically. I get that, but you know, of course, I'm going to go back and see that movie over and over again, because to me, it's not about the destination; it's about the journey. It's about the experience, the communal. That to me encapsulates why movie theaters exist. Because you take a film that I think is kind of what they're trying to do with The Room, and just make it something that audiences interact with and just have fun poking fun at it. It's self-aware. It knows what it is. It doesn't attempt to be anything else.
Right.
To me, it's what thrust Tim Curry into my consciousness. Because I don't think anybody really knew who he was. And, you know, I've seen that meme pop up of, you can judge a person's character by what they know Tim Curry from. That's it for me. I mean, I automatically hear Sweet Transvestite when someone mentions his name.
And if anybody answers that question, McHale's Navy, you know not to speak to them.
But I do have to shoehorn, in the same vein of musical send-ups, I got to include this movie on the list.
I can't see it. What is it?
It's Prince's Graffiti Bridge. It's the sequel to Purple Rain.
They made a sequel?
They did make a sequel.
Wow.
I never knew that.
Tells me that's how bad it was. It came out in the fall of 1990, and it landed with an absolute thud. It pretty much killed Prince's film career, because he wrote it and directed it.
Wow, I never even knew that.
Yeah, I'm a Prince fan, so I have to make it part of my repertoire. I watch it every now and then. I will laugh at it hysterically.
I'm actually surprised I don't remember that, because my sister was a huge Prince fan in the 80s, and like we had Purple Rain, like she had it on vinyl, she had the VHS, and I don't remember her ever being disappointed. I'm surprised. Like I thought, like if it was that bad, I would probably remember it. But wow,
it's bad. It's where the song "Thieves in the Temple" came from, if you remember that song. But it's off that soundtrack. There's
was
some
this
great
before music. Or after he became a Jehovah's Witness? Out of curiosity.
Before. This is the album before Diamonds and Pearls. This is literally the project he was doing, but while he was recording Diamonds and Pearls.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
So
Scott,
it's worth a watch just to cringe.
Can I just listen to some Prince music instead?
Yeah. Can I just listen to Purple Rain and call it a day?
I was about to say, can I just let that happen?
Again, it's got great music on the album, and it's interesting to see it performed in the film, but that's about it. That's really the only thing the movie has going for it, is the time gets back together again. You kind of saw Tevin Campbell's career springboard from this movie, because he was in that too. George Clinton's in it. Mavis Staples is in it. So there's some really great musical luminaries in this film. It's just utter garbage. It is hot trash. I can't believe it ever got made. I really can't. And the fact that it's actually billed as the sequel to Purple Rain just makes it that much more painful.
I never even knew they made a sequel.
And Chad, just because of the way you said that, you just reminded me what my last movie is going to be. So I'll save that for the end.
Okay.
But thank you. Thank you so
You're welcome.
much.
Glad
All
to
right,
help.
Scott, how about you? What's another movie for you?
To me, this is a really, really awful movie. It's probably my last one. But It's on topic with Antonio Banderas, but it's essentially Once Upon a Time Mexico. Like I love that whole like El Mariachi fucking desperado kind of storyline. Those two movies were really great. Then we got to that film. Johnny Depp put the whole kiss of death on everything. That movie is fucking awful. I have no idea what the fuck to say about that film. I mean, because it's literally like they were just like, well, they want us to make a third film, and I got no fucking idea what to do. What do you want to do, Antonio? Let's bring in Johnny Depp. Okay.
Is that how he said it?
I mean, that's probably how he's gonna have to say it.
Let's bring in Johnny Depp.
Wow.
That does sound like him, though. That was pretty spot on.
That was good, bro. He would fall in boots on that one. Fear me if you dare.
Well, no, that's the thing. It's like because I loved Johnny Depp. I even loved him in Four Rooms, where he was like the fucking rich millionaire or whatever. And he's like, so did they behave?
Well, I look at this movie as, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I've never watched it again after I saw it once. And really what kills me is, wait, you're making an entire story where you killed Selma Hayek? That's the only thing I come back to. It's like, you killed the hot chick?
You killed the
I'm done.
You killed the best pair of titties that side of the border. What's wrong with you?
Screw you. I don't care what the pay.
That's really rude. That's really rude to other women that were out there. But no, I have a huge crush on Selma Hayek. Like,
Who doesn't?
I know. That woman still looks amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Scott, I've got a story for you about her I need to tell you off air.
All right. We're going to go around and we're going to do one more round of like bad movies. I mean, obviously, this is something that we can talk about again. And I think we're going to have part 2 another day with other members of our staff. But I'm going to give a movie that is known as one of the greatest Hollywood debacles. It is 25 years old. I can't help myself. I wanted to bring this movie up. It certainly lost money. And to give it some kind of redeeming value, they did put out a 3-hour Blu-ray cut of this movie to try and save it. But the movie I'm talking about stars Kevin Costner, and it's called Waterworld.
Waterworld.
That movie was really good. I liked it.
Okay. If you really take a step back and look at this movie, and the reason I bring it up is it's theatrical cuts of movies where you're trying to get the time frame down and fit within a certain amount of time, and then it just doesn't really work. It's where you sometimes need a 3 or 4 hour version to make the movie better. And it maybe doesn't bode well for the film. Like if you have to make it that long to make a good film, then why are you making the film? Yada, yada, yada. But the whole concept that, the earth was flooded, everybody's on water, they're searching for dry land, and there's a girl with a map and all that. It is just kind of this ridiculous, over-the-top, movie. And of course, they had so many problems trying to make it. But there are some redeeming values in it, not necessarily for the action, but Dennis Hopper is one of the greatest villains ever. And he's just hilarious in that movie. And the little side comments he makes,
The scene with his eye when he's putting in the various little fake eyes and he looks at everybody and he's got it in there and he's like looking around. It's like, how's it look? How's it look? Like, looks good, boss. Looks good. Dougie, how's it look? Looks like shit, boss. You're right, Dougie. It does look like fucking shit.
But when he's asking the girl about the map and he's just like, did your pet fish tell you? It's just Dennis Hopper being Dennis Hopper.
I think Dennis Hopper, for him, it's that accent.
Right.
And it's just the way that he says things so well. I mean, God.
But I've watched that movie before, in years passed, and I'm just like, when it comes to dystopian type movies that you sort of believe in, like this could happen. I mean, we're more prone to believe that a zombie apocalypse could happen compared to what? And then, of course, it's this vain attempt to talk about climate change. Like, if we don't do something now, this is what happens with the polar ice caps, and the entire world will be underwater, and blah, blah, blah. But it is something that I go back and watch. It's not necessarily because it's a great film, but because it is, this debacle, and it's not very believable. And I know it's not supposed to be, but it is kind of fun in a lot of ways. And again, making a 3-hour version where the director gets to go back and has their vision of the movie to make it better. I mean, how many times have we seen that? Ridley Scott's done it how many times? And we all pretty much acknowledge that the final cut, or his cut of Blade Runner, is the best. We all pretty much agree that the 3-hour version of Batman versus Superman is the better version. And now we have another movie where, it's time to go back and recut this movie and make it the perfect vision. And I'm talking about Godfather Part 3, which that version is coming out on Tuesday, which I am actually curious to see.
I am too. And let's not forget Cameron has made a freaking career out of it too.
Yeah. Although, if there's a director's cut of Avatar, I am not watching it.
I'm not watching
Guilty.
Fern Gully 3 ever again.
What are you saying, Brendan? You're not going to go to the 3 or the 4 or 5 press screenings we have for the sequels?
Not unless you make me.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I volunteer as tribute. I like that
I don't
film.
really care for movies where like blue mouse people fucking sexual interface with everything. It's just like what? It's
I do like that. I do like how
documentary.
Disney Plus throws it out there as a recommendation for me on top of everything. I'm like, no, I'm never going to watch this on Disney Plus. Anyway, but yeah, I throw Waterworld out there as just kind of a terrible movie that
No, it was
I
really
can't
good.
help.
Well, it pretty much did end his friendship with Kevin Reynolds.
Yeah.
And I was actually today years old when I realized that Hopper was not the original choice as the villain for that, to play the Deacon.
Really? Who was the original
Yes.
choice? Who?
He got a little tied up making Die Hard with a Vengeance, actually, after doing Pulp Fiction.
Oh, okay. Huh.
And
Interesting.
it ain't Bruce Willis. It was Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh.
Well, that would kind of be interesting. Anyway,
Wouldn't it though?
but that's my last pick for this show. Brendan, how about you?
This is my favorite, best, worst movie of all time. It is the greatest, worst B movie of all time. It is The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. And how he reminds, when you said it was mostly painful, the greatest line in that movie is when Andrew Dice Clay says, and as the narrator talking to you, talking to Zuzu was like masturbating with a cheese grater. It was slightly amusing, but mostly painful.
My hair.
They're on top of the Capitol Records building and they're climbing down the different layers of the Capitol Records building. He tells her, "Don't worry, if you fall, I'll make it."
I'll make it. I mean, you talk about a director getting stretched too thin because wasn't he basically making that and Die Hard 2 at the same fucking time?
I don't know. That maybe, but oh my god, that movie was. There's just so many. Like, look at the cast: Robert Englund, who is obviously Freddy Krueger, Priscilla Presley, Wayne Newton, Morris Day from Morris Day and the Time, Ed O'Neill. God, I can't remember who else, but like
Hell, Sheila E. was even in that damn thing.
Sheila E. What's her? Tone Loc. Oh God, I'm forgetting
Lauren
Holly, and I'm forgetting one other person that's somewhat famous. Crap.
I haven't seen that movie in so long that I don't remember.
But yeah,
Gilbert Godfrey.
Gilbert Gottfried. That's who I was forgetting. Yeah, because he played Johnny Crunch.
Ah,
Johnny and I used to have.
Christ.
Johnny and I used to have gross out contests as a kid. I'd hock up a big lug, and he'd say, "Nice try," and pull out a straw.
And of course he'll say, "Here's to you sucking my dick."
Yeah,
it is. I got to go with you on that. Like, best worst movie. I mean,
and I will watch that over and over again. And then the line at the end, what'd you think we'd hang the fucking koala bear? Koala bear sipping a drink out of a coconut with a neck brace.
Nice. All right, Chad. What's the last movie for you in the show?
Oh Jesus, man! I gave you a 2 for the last round. Gosh. Oh God. Kind of a close race between Superman 3 and 4.
The difference being, I will watch Superman 3 again. I won't watch Superman 4 ever again.
Right. I will watch it because who would have thought you could put Richard Pryor in a Superman movie and it be somewhat funny?
Actually, no. I recant.
The Superman movie was
I recant.
Superman 4 absolutely is a shit fucking.
No. I remove this offer from the table. I have got to put League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and present that to the court because it's the film that made Sean Connery say "fuck acting."
I like the film. I thought it was really good.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either. I mean, I'm not saying it's very good, but
yeah, it's nowhere near on the list of like worst movies of all time. I mean, it could have been much better, but
it made it made Connery walk away from acting. If it was that bad to him, and he did the Avengers,
yeah, but I don't know if that has anything to do with it being a bad movie compared to a bad production.
Yeah, I think it was more the director that he had a problem with, and the producers, because we
can all thank Stephen Norrington for that shit. How do you do Blade and then do that?
Well, and then you got to remember, he was also in Highlander: The Quickening. I mean,
but he kept acting.
Yeah, but that's a much worse movie.
He's a fucking Zardos, for fuck's sake, So, I mean, but like honestly, and I know everyone's all on Sean Connery because he just passed away recently and everything else, and I really appreciate Sean Connery. But when he started getting to that point in his career, he was so full of himself, and he was so full of just like his own opinion and everything else like that it wasn't really about anything other than him. So it's probably a good thing that he just decided to say, nope, now's the time to fuck acting because you're not really part of it anymore.
Yeah.
Although he did have the only funny line in Highlander 2. It was like, I require a suit of clothes. Well, we are the oldest haberdashers in Scotland. Well, that is very convenient because I am without a doubt the oldest gentleman in Scotland. And the guy's like, yeah, sure. You're like 65.
You know what? Instead of doing The Room every 2 weeks at like the Angelica or theaters across the nation for riff tracks, why don't we do Highlander 2? I don't think I've seen that in 20 years, and I think that would be interesting to get drunk, eat a brownie, and just see what happens with that. So anyway, Scott, how about you? What's the last movie that you would pick?
Oh, fuck! I mean, I've already kind of picked it. God, now I gotta think of one more movie that I fucking hate. It was just awful.
Twilight, because you were forced to watch that by some girl, weren't you?
No, actually, I never watched Twilight. I'm very happy I never had to.
Okay.
You and me right there with you, brother.
Amen.
Yeah. I've never seen 50 Shades of Grey, never seen The Notebook, never seen any of that hot garbage.
The Notebook. That's one of those two white people almost kissing books, right?
Yeah, almost.
I freely admit I saw the first Twilight movie because I wanted sex at the end of the evening. I don't think there's any shame in that. But I've never watched any of the other
never
ones.
watched Twilight unless they were 12.
The greatest Twilight reference ever is a cartoon, and I sadly forget the name of the online cartoon that did it, but a guy's wearing what looks like a Team Edward shirt, and he's got and they're from here in Dallas too, and he's got a tray of like popcorn and sodas at the movie theaters, and his buddy comes up to him who also writes the comments like, I can't believe you even watched that stuff, what are you doing wearing that shirt, blah blah blah, and he moves it away in the next frame, and it's Edward James Olmos from Battlestar Galactica.
Jesus Christ.
Well, if you don't have another one, Scott, I will do this to share to end the show with a funny story of
Go ahead.
How an ex-girlfriend got me to take her to see this movie. It was The Lake House with Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves. And her reasoning for why I would like this movie, even though it was a romantic movie, was it had time travel in it. And because I was a nerd, I would like the time travel.
And they did Speed together.
Yeah. And it had neither of those things. And she's crying her eyes out all throughout the movie. And it's beautiful and all that. And I'm just like, at the end of it. And I like Keanu Reeves, and I think him and Sandra Bullock should do, another movie together, just not that. But my thinking was, yeah, I'm at least getting head at the end of the evening. And I made that comment while she was in the restroom to another guy who was being forced, and he was like, just gives you that nod. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's never watched that movie again. Never blah blah. Even though it had a good cast, but yes.
Okay, am I the only one that's going to ask a question though, Marcus?
Go ahead.
Did you?
Why does it fucking matter? Why do you gotta know? It doesn't fucking matter.
I'll just do this.
But it does matter.
No, it fucking doesn't, because no one wants to think about Marcus getting blown.
Was it worth it? Was it worth what you gave up? Is what I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay.
But anyway,
Touche.
It also is kind of it's also kind of a PSA announcement for girlfriends and wives and all that. If you're a true nerd, then you know that you can't use time travel as as a way to get someone to go see like a movie. But if you're just trying to use that as an excuse without understanding how time travel really works, especially in film, then shame on you for even using that. So, and I say that willingly because I've got a girlfriend who the very first movie we ever saw together was Sex and the City 2. I had never seen an episode, never saw the other one. I knew nothing about these characters, and I was literally the only straight man in the theater. And she put it plainly like, we're going to have drinks. You're going to take me to see this movie, and you're getting late at the end of the night. I'm like, sold.
Okay.
She did not mince words about that whatsoever. I'm like, all right.
So this is kind of an anti this week's sign of the apocalypse. This is this week's sign that humanity isn't entirely fucked. So since Sunday, when the rights to Daredevil reverted to Marvel, the #1 trending hashtag on Twitter worldwide is Save Daredevil.
Nice.
Disney likes money.
In humanity.
Disney likes money.
Yeah.
I think we might get Daredevil back. Just saying.
I hope so.
Yeah. There you go. And no,
So-
we didn't bring up the Ben Affleck movie. We can.
No, we're
definitely-
talking about the Charlie Cox series.
I know. What I'm saying is, I'm making a joke. Since we're
Oh
talking
yeah, we
about
could
that.
have. Yes, you're right. We could have.
Yeah, didn't bring that up. But we are definitely going to have to do part 2 of this show with some other staff members at a later date, because there's too many more movies that we can talk about. And
We've barely scratched the surface.
we barely scratched the surface. So
Gave it a tickle.
Right. It may end up, who knows? We may be able to cobble out a little documentary series with this. So, all right. We're going to close this out for the weekend. I want to thank Mr. Chad Womack and K. Scott Cooper for joining me and Brendan for this podcast.
My pleasure.
And as I said, we're not going to be back next week. Christmas party things going on next week. But we will be back in 2 weeks, and it is all about The Mandalorian, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and, you know, what we expect from season 3, where Disney's going with this. We decided that we can't just do a simple, short 15-minute review of season 2. It's got to be an entire podcast.
Oh, there's way
because
too
it's
much
so
to.
talk about.
Yeah, there's way
So-
too much to digest there for 15 minutes.
Right. So that's what we're doing in 2 weeks, and we hope that you'll join us. So, but we'd love to know your picks for terrible movies that you will never watch again or that you can't help but watch again. And you can hit us on Twitter at That Nerd Show. So, all right, everybody. Thanks a lot. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Bye, guys.